The planet loomed large in the viewport, a swirling mass of jagged mountains and storm-torn skies. Captain Zara Trent gripped the controls, fighting the violent descent as her ship buckled under the force of Zygor 9's brutal atmosphere. The hum of the engines was now a scream, the dashboard flickering with warnings, hull integrity critical. System failure imminent, not now, Zara muttered, yanking the control stick with a ferocity born from years of survival. She had been through worse. She would survive this. She had to. The ship tore through the dense clouds, and Zygor 9's scorched surface rushed up to greet her. With one final desperate pull, Zara managed to level the ship, but the impact was still devastating. Metal groaned, sparks flew, and the once sleek reconnaissance vessel skidded across the ground, throwing up a plume of ash and debris before finally coming to a stop. Zara's chest heaved as she unbuckled herself, her entire body aching from the crash. She glanced at the cracked mirror beside her, blood trickled from a gash on her forehead, but she was alive. Alive on a planet designed to kill, the silence was unsettling. Outside, Zygor 9 was far from quiet. The air thrummed with unnatural sounds, deep, guttural roars that reverberated through the ship's hull, like predators announcing their presence. Zara grabbed her blaster and emergency kit, stumbling out of the wreckage. The air smelled acrid, filled with the sharp tang of sulfur. She scanned the horizon, her muscles tensing. Nothing in the landscape was familiar, jagged rock formations twisted into grotesque shapes, and dark clouds swirled ominously above. Then she heard it, a faint, barely perceptible sound, like a whimper carried on the wind. Zara froze, listening closely. It wasn't a creature. It was something else. She moved cautiously toward the source, her blaster raised. The wreckage of her ship created a jagged silhouette against the horizon, but in the shadow of the debris, a small figure huddled against the cold, trembling. It was a child. An alien child. Zara's heart skipped. The girl's wide, dark eyes stared up at her, filled with fear. Her skin, pale and almost translucent, seemed fragile against the harsh backdrop of the planet. She looked no older than 7 or 8, dressed in tattered remnants of clothing that offered no protection from Zygor 9's merciless environment. The girl was alone. And if she stayed here, she wouldn't survive the night. Zara lowered her blaster, taking a step forward. Hey. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. The girl flinched, pulling her knees tighter to her chest. Monstrous roars echoed closer in the distance. Zara crouched down, her voice firm but gentle. We need to move. Now. The girl hesitated, but Zara could see it in her eyes. There was no one else. Just them. 2 strangers, stranded on a hostile planet with monsters closing in. Zara extended her hand. Come on. I won't leave you. The girl slowly reached out, her small hand slipping into Zara's. Together, they turned away from the wreckage, and into the unknown. The air felt heavier the farther they trekked from the wreckage. Captain Zara Trent led the way through Zygor 9's unforgiving wilderness, her senses on high alert. Every step felt like a risk, every shadow a threat. The jagged rocks and twisted trees seemed to watch them, like predators lying in wait. Behind her, the little alien girl stumbled, her movements clumsy but determined. Zara glanced over her shoulder. She hadn't said a word since they left the crash site. Her dark, wide eyes scanning the desolate landscape as if expecting danger at any moment. She wasn't wrong. Zara crouched near a massive boulder, gesturing for the girl to follow. Stay low, she whispered, scanning the horizon. The distant roars of the planet's creatures echoed again, louder this time. They were close, too close. She had seen the damage these beasts could do to full-grown soldiers, and there was no way she'd let them near the girl. What's your name? Zara asked quietly, trying to keep her voice calm as they hid behind the boulder. She wasn't sure if the girl could even understand Galactic Standard, but she had to try. Connection was important. They couldn't survive this planet as strangers. The girl hesitated, then whispered, Nixie. The name came out soft, fragile, like it hadn't been spoken in a long time, Zara offered a faint smile, her heart softening. Nixie, huh? I'm Zara. She adjusted her grip on her blaster, eyes never leaving the horizon. We're gonna get out of this. You stay with me, okay? Nixie nodded, her small hands clutching at the remnants of a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Zara noted the bruises on the girl's arms, the signs of malnourishment. She couldn't have been here long, but it was clear she had been through more than any child should. They moved again, crawling through the rough terrain, every sound amplified by the tension between them. Zara's mind raced. She had no idea how to get off this planet, her ship was a wreck, her comms were dead, and the rescue beacon was only a faint hope. But Nixie. She had been left here by someone. Vicronians, most likely. Bait for something worse, how long? Zara asked as they reached a small clearing. How long were you out here? Nixie didn't meet her eyes. Long. They said I was. Not worth keeping. The words were a knife to Zara's gut. Rage flared in her chest. She had heard stories of Vicronian cruelty, but abandoning a child on Zygor 9. That was inhuman. Suddenly, a guttural roar shattered the air. Zara whipped around, blaster raised. A hulking beast, all claws and teeth, stalked into the clearing. Its eyes gleamed with hunger, its massive form blotting out the dim light of the alien sun. Nixie gasped, shrinking behind Zara. Stay behind me, Zara ordered, her voice firm. The beast roared again, its muscles coiling, ready to strike. Zara steadied her aim. This fight was unavoidable, and she'd die before she let it touch Nixie. The battle for survival had only just begun. Zara's pulse quickened as the massive beast bared its fangs, its eyes locked on her and Nixie. The creature's dark, scaly skin rippled with tension, its claws sinking into the dirt as it prowled forward, slow and menacing. It was unlike anything she'd ever encountered, easily twice her size. A predator forged by Zygor 9's cruel environment, and it was hungry. Zara positioned herself between Nixie and the creature, her grip tightening on the blaster. Don't move, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the low growl emanating from the beast's throat. She aimed for its chest, the spot just beneath the hardened scales, where the blaster might do some damage, if she was lucky. The creature snarled, then lunged. A deafening blast echoed across the clearing as Zara fired, her shot hitting the beast square in the shoulder. It recoiled with a feral scream, black blood oozing from the wound. But it wasn't enough. It only enraged the creature further. It reared back, its claws raking the ground in a frenzy. And charged. Zara fired again, hitting it twice more, but the beast barely slowed. Its massive bulk crashed toward them with terrifying speed. Zara's mind raced, she couldn't outrun it, not with Nixie. This was it. Her muscles tensed, preparing for the inevitable. Then, from behind her, Nixie let out a strange, high-pitched hum. It was soft at first, barely more than a murmur, but it grew in intensity, reverberating through the air like a vibration beneath the skin. Zara glanced back in surprise, her heart skipping a beat as she saw Nixie's eyes glowing, her pale skin now shimmering with an ethereal light. The beast halted mid-charge, its glowing red eyes locking onto the girl. For a brief, disorienting moment, the clearing fell into an eerie stillness. The creature tilted its head, confused by the strange sound and the light now emanating from Nixie. Zara blinked, her breath caught in her throat. What was Nixie doing? The girl's hum became a song, a haunting melody that seemed to resonate with the very air around them. The beast shifted uneasily, its snarl softening into a low whimper as if something in Nixie's voice was pacifying it. It shook its massive head, backing away slowly, uncertain. Zara lowered her blaster slightly, still keeping her eyes on the creature, but her focus had shifted. There was more to Nixie than Zara had realized. Much more. The beast retreated further. Finally turning and lumbering away into the mist, its roars fading into the distance. Zara stood frozen, heart pounding, as the last echoes of Nixie's song faded. Silence. Zara knelt beside Nixie, her voice soft but urgent. "Nixie, how did you do that?" The girl looked up at her, the glow in her eyes dimming. "They didn't want me because I'm different. They don't like my voice." Zara stared at her in awe. "Your voice. It saved us." Nixie gave a small, tired nod, the light fading completely from her skin. She swayed, exhausted from the effort, and Zara quickly caught her, pulling her close. "Rest," Zara whispered, her mind racing with questions. This child was no ordinary girl. But right now, answers could wait. They had survived, for now. Zara moved through the jagged terrain, the weight of Nixie in her arms as the girl slept. Her small body was lighter than Zara had expected, fragile even, and after the strange display of power, Nixie had fallen into an almost unnatural slumber. Whatever she had done to scare off the creature had drained her, leaving Zara alone with more questions than answers. The landscape stretched endlessly before them, barren, hostile, and unforgiving. Zara's eyes scanned for shelter, a place to regroup and think. Night was falling, and on Zygor 9, the darkness brought out the worst of its monstrous inhabitants. The few flickers of daylight that remained were fast fading behind the swirling storm clouds. Casting the planet in an eerie glow, she quickened her pace. They needed safety, somewhere to hide before more creatures emerged. Every crack in the ground, every rustle of the wind felt like the harbinger of another attack. Zara kept Nixie cradled close, her blaster in hand, her nerves on edge. Why did they leave her here? The question gnawed at Zara. Nixie's abilities were powerful, rare, and possibly dangerous. The Vicronians must have known that. But abandoning a child, one with the potential to control these beasts, made little sense unless they feared her. Or worse, planned to use her. The thought churned in Zara's gut. In the distance, a massive rock formation jutted up like a scar in the earth, its steep walls offering a sliver of hope. She hurried toward it, muscles burning, feet aching. The wind picked up, howling through the alien landscape, and with it came that familiar, unsettling sound, the growl of something large, something hungry. They were being hunted. Zara cursed under her breath and picked up the pace. The shadows around them grew thicker, alive with the presence of unseen predators. Just a little farther. Her heart pounded, her breath ragged as she reached the rock face. To her relief, a narrow opening was carved into the base, barely big enough to slip through but enough to keep the larger creatures out. She squeezed inside, carefully laying Nixie down before collapsing against the cold stone. For a moment, all she could do was breathe, the adrenaline fading into exhaustion. The roars of the creatures outside echoed in the distance, but for now, they were safe. Zara looked at Nixie, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. The girl had saved them both, but how much longer could they rely on her abilities? Nixie was just a child, scared, vulnerable, and abandoned. Zara leaned her head back against the stone and closed her eyes for a moment. The warmth of the rock did little to ease the chill in her bones. She had always been a survivor, a soldier hardened by war and loss. But this was different. Protecting Nixie wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about uncovering the truth. Whoever had left Nixie here didn't expect her to survive. And now that Zara had her, it wasn't just the creatures of Zygor 9 she had to worry about. There were other eyes watching. Waiting, and they were coming. The night on Zygor 9 was thick with a suffocating silence, broken only by the distant, haunting cries of unseen predators. The shelter Zara had found was little more than a jagged cave, but it provided a few hours of rest from the horrors lurking outside. She sat near the entrance, her blaster resting across her knees, watching as the dark sky bled into the oppressive black of the night. Beside her, Nixie stirred, her pale face illuminated by the faint glow of the bioluminescent fungi growing along the cave walls. The girl's eyes fluttered open, still drowsy from the strange power she had used to ward off the beast. "Zara?" she murmured, her voice small in the gloom. Zara turned, offering a reassuring smile despite the gnawing unease in her chest. Yeah, I'm here, she said softly. How are you feeling? Nixie blinked a few times, pushing herself up to sit. Tired. But better. The creatures. They listen to me, but it takes a lot. Her voice was hesitant, as if unsure whether to speak of what she could do. Zara nodded. I noticed. You saved us back there. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. How long have you known about your abilities? Nixie lowered her gaze, her hands twisting in the frayed edges of her blanket. Always. But they didn't like it. The others, I mean. They were scared of me. Her voice wavered. They said I was broken. Zara's chest tightened. She had seen cruelty in many forms throughout her years of service, but this. Leaving a child to die because of fear. It was beyond anything she could comprehend. You're not broken, Zara said, her voice firm. You're powerful. And right now, that's going to keep us alive. Nixie's gaze met hers, a flicker of hope sparking behind her dark eyes. But before Zara could say more, a soft, mechanical whirring noise caught her attention. Her muscles tensed. She rose to her feet, eyes narrowing as the sound grew louder, closer. It wasn't a creature this time. The familiar hum of a drone sliced through the air outside the cave, its light sweeping over the barren landscape. Zara crouched, pulling Nixie close. Surveillance, they were being watched, Zara's mind raced. If the Vicronians had left Nixie here, they wouldn't have just abandoned her without keeping tabs. The drone hovered near the cave's entrance, its beam slicing through the shadows. Zara cursed under her breath. She had no idea how long it had been tracking them, or how much it had seen. We need to move, Zara whispered. Now. Nixie's eyes widened with fear. They're coming for me, aren't they? Zara didn't answer, her mind already calculating their next move. The drone drifted away. Its light fading as it continued its search, but it was only a matter of time before more came. Before the Vicronians came. And when they did, they wouldn't just be after Nixie, they'd be after both of them. They won't get you, Zara promised, her voice steady, though her heart pounded with the weight of the coming storm. But we need to stay ahead of them. Without another word, Zara grabbed her pack and led Nixie deeper into the shadows of Zygor 9. The real enemy wasn't just the creatures on the planet. It was the ones who had sent that drone, and the danger they brought with them. Zara and Nixie moved through the dense underbrush, their breath shallow, their pace quickening as the low hum of more drones echoed in the distance. The sky had begun to lighten, but dawn brought no comfort, only more dangers as the unseen watchers closed in. The Vicronians were relentless, and Zara knew their time was running out. We're close, Zara muttered, her eyes scanning the landscape for any sign of the abandoned relay station she had scouted on her way to Zygor 9. It was their only hope now, a derelict communication outpost hidden deep in the rocky ravines. If they could reach it, maybe, just maybe, she could send a distress signal. Nixie clung to her side, silent but wide-eyed, her exhaustion clear in the way she stumbled over the uneven ground. Zara could feel the tension growing, the weight of every step heavier than the last. She was trained for war, but not this, protecting a child, fighting against enemies that didn't reveal themselves until it was too late. There. Zara spotted the rusted antennae of the relay station jutting out from behind a rocky cliff. Her heart leaped with a surge of hope. We can make it. But as they scrambled toward the structure, the piercing whine of engines split the air. Zara skidded to a halt, yanking Nixie behind the cover of a boulder just as a sleek, black Vicronian ship descended from the clouds, its landing thrusters kicking up dust and debris. They found us, Nixie whispered, her voice trembling. The girl's wide eyes filled with dread, Zara's jaw clenched. Stay behind me. No matter what happens. The ship's hatch opened with a hiss, and a group of Vicronian soldiers stepped out, their dark armor glinting in the pale light of dawn. At their helm stood a tall, imposing figure, his face concealed behind a silver mask. Zara recognized him immediately, the overseer, the one who had ordered Nixie's exile, return the child, human, the overseer's voice boomed through the helmet speaker. She belongs to us. Zara's grip tightened on her blaster. She doesn't belong to anyone. The overseer took a step forward, his soldiers fanning out behind him. She is a threat, an abomination. You've seen what she can do. She must be contained. Zara's mind raced. She couldn't win in a direct confrontation. But she couldn't let them take Nixie. Not after everything. Nixie, she whispered without looking back. Can you do it again? Like before? The girl hesitated, fear clouding her features. I don't know if I can. I'm scared. Zara squeezed her hand gently. You can. I believe in you. Nixie nodded, her small frame trembling as she stepped out from behind the boulder. Her eyes began to glow, faintly at first, then brighter. The Vicronians paused, sensing the shift in the air. The ground vibrated beneath them, a low hum that grew into a powerful pulse. Zara raised her blaster and fired at the overseer just as Nixie's song filled the air, stronger than before. More commanding. The soldiers hesitated, their minds clouded by the strange, hypnotic melody. One by one, they dropped their weapons, eyes glazed, the overseer staggered, his armor cracking under the force of Nixie's power. He collapsed to his knees, his mask slipping off, revealing wide, terrified eyes. What? What are you? Nixie's voice wavered, but her song did not stop. I'm not broken, she said, her voice rising as the ground shook beneath them. I'm powerful. With a final, shuddering gasp, the overseer fell, motionless. The remaining soldiers retreated, the ship's engines roaring to life as they fled into the sky, leaving Zara and Nixie alone once more. The silence that followed was overwhelming, but Zara could only smile at the girl beside her. You did it, Zara breathed, her voice filled with awe. Nixie looked up at her, a small, tired smile on her face. We did it. For the first time since they had met, Zara allowed herself to believe they might just survive this planet after all.